the contracts and the coaching. So the Rangers are going to have to look out for that now too. And you brought up some great points last week, not to blow smoke up your you know what, but Panarin and Zibanejad and Strome being able to duplicate the years they just had. So it's there's so much to analyze and look forward to, but also be skeptical of as well.
Yeah, I'm just happy that the Rangers took my advice to tank the series against Carolina. Do you have that clip from a couple of weeks ago that I said that that's what they should do?
Yeah, it's on GoRangersRadio.com. That's where you can go, and Kevin, you can just put a mirror in front of you, and a White Claw, and put your headphones on. You can look at yourself, listening to yourself.
I thought for sure you'd have that synced up for me. That's disappointing.
You know what?
No, it is.
The the ego, man, is just unbelievable, dude.
Look, I obviously would have loved to see the Rangers play much better in the series, but obviously now that they got the number one pick, it's probably better off that they lost, because to be honest, this team, as you mentioned before, they weren't winning the Stanley Cup this year. So, you got to look at, what did more for the rebuild? Was it, the experience of maybe a longer playoff run? If they would have beat Carolina, maybe gotten to the second round and gotten, smashed by, Boston or whoever they were going to end up playing, or get a, generational talent, Lafreniere. And I think that the Rangers organization, 100 times out of 100 would take the scenario that played out. So, yeah, I'm assuming, Gordon and JD must just be looking at each other, just shaking their heads with just like a big smile on their face, and just like, I can't believe that this is happening. Especially Gordon, because obviously JD wasn't here when they wrote the letter and they decided like this is the way we're gonna go. And I'm sure them just looking at the way it's turned out. They just have to sit back and laugh. And obviously for JD to walk into this, and just have all this happening to him. And I love that he is the president and the guy who did come in, with his history with the organization. I'm so happy that is able to be a part of this.
It's a great point, Katie, because I think for myself, you forget, right? And the pick is made, and then you're thumbing through Twitter or media, whatever social media platform you're on or whatever you're looking, and then there it is. It's like, oh my God, that's JD, man. He's our president. Sometimes you got to get smacked in the head sometimes, and remember that. And the timing for him to come in on this is fantastic.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty cool that he is, the president, came in, and now all this sort of good luck is happening, and it's working out for the team. And look, he's done a great job in St. Louis and then in Columbus. So, he has the pedigree. But like I said earlier, you need a little luck with this stuff, and it seems to be breaking the Rangers' way. And what I found extremely awesome, and where you could say maybe there's other things at play here, is that the last 2 years at the draft lotto, Gordon had the Stephen McDonald shield with him. And they got the number 2 pick with Kakko, and now they get the number 1 pick with the lotto this year. So, I really don't believe in that stuff. But, when you see that, that he had the shield at the last 2 lottos, and you see that the way draft lottos, and you see the way it works out, that's some crazy stuff to go along with, JD coming back, and for Gordon to have that shield with him at both of those lottos, and for it to work out with the Rangers is great stuff.
I'll believe it, man. I'll love it. As a guy growing up with this team, especially through my 20s and stuff and 30s, and McDonald and his not only his service, his story, and then his connection with the Rangers, it's magical. I'll take that any day. I think it's awesome. I think all of us as Ranger fans know that, and I think it's just great. Obviously we wish he was still here with us and everything, but if that's a little bit of magic, we'll take it. We'll take that for the Rangers and the organization, and for hopefully some good times to come back around for this city and the organization too, and for the fans. So like I said, I'll believe in it, man. I'm believing in that 100%. I love it, and I think it's fantastic. And I'm glad you brought that up, man. It was some cool stuff.
Yeah, hey, look, that's why you have me on the show, right? To make sure that I take note of those things.
Looks, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, good stuff, man. I mean, look, if you're a Ranger fan these days, I mean, you really, other than the fact that they went out early, I mean, you really don't have much to complain about. I mean, this is good stuff. I mean, you could just feel it even in social media, which, is the most negative place just in the history of like mankind, right? Like right now, like you can't find a Ranger fan, who's in a bad mood right now, except for maybe my friend Scotty Hockey, but he's always in a bad mood.
Hey, Scotty, he's not listening anyway, so
yeah, I know he says he doesn't listen. So, but it's just everyone's positive, everyone's pumped, everyone's excited for the rebuild and the way things are going. Look, there's a couple of people don't think maybe Quinn's the guy who ultimately leads us there, which look, I think that there's a definite argument to be made there, but it doesn't take away from the excitement that everyone should have and the way this organization is trending and look, I can't say, I don't have enough positivity and superlatives here to put out there for what I'm feeling for the organization. It's great stuff.
Yes. Well, look, let's be honest too. It's very rare and highly unlikely that a young guy like Quinn is going to just take this team from scratch and then eventually win the Stanley Cup. I mean, it's been a long time since guys like Al Auber and Scotty Bowman, the guys who've done that, with being with the team from their inception and then going on to win not only one championship but multiple Stanley Cups. I mean, the Salad Bowl in the NHL these days is there's a lot of movement. So lifespan of a coach is is it 3 to 5 years maybe, and we'll see what happens. I mean, you even look at the Rangers story here over the last 10 years. From Torts getting them close. And him working with a lunch pail kind of guy. And I give the guy a lot of credit what he's doing with Columbus too. And then AV comes in and then he takes what he had and the Rangers get a couple of signings there and they catch a little magic and everything with Marty St. Louis and everything and then they get to the Cup Finals. And then like I said, then it just kind of turns around. Now you look at AV now with the Flyers, and the Flyers look really good in terms of him taking over that team that was kind of AV seems to be the guy that comes in and kind of, he picks up what was being tinkered with, and he's tightening the bolts there and putting the oil on the engine and getting them there. So we'll see what happens. But, yeah, I mean, again, with the Rangers, this team and Quinn and everything else, it's something that we're all kind of, going through. I mean, Quinn, the franchise making that decision, going with a guy who doesn't have NHL experience, and the reason they went that way is because a couple other teams were going that way too, and it seemed to be the kind of the norm. I don't know if that's really going to stick too much anymore, but it's all back and forth. I mean, Toronto's situation, the switch there, and then you can as far as young guys going out, Devils, Flyers, and then you got guys like DeBoer and now Ruff going back to the Devils. So there's still a mix of that. Those young coaches that are in there, the guy cutting his teeth. Colorado's looking really well. I think Colorado and the Flyers right now are two teams that you might want to watch the rest of the way here, too, as far as, Colorado's got a team with a bunch of high-round draft picks that they've been cultivating over the last few years. Joe Sakic there, too, and now these kids are kind of really they're getting it and they're going. The Flyers have had those kind of mixes the last couple of years, and they've got some good veteran experience there, too, with Giroux and everything else, and we'll see what happens there. But then you look at Edmonton and you look at Toronto, and they can't get it going. They can't get over the hump. They can't get through the wall. And then you're seeing teams like Boston are starting to, they're getting old, they're getting age, putting a lot of miles on the skates. There's so many great little different aspects that I think us as Ranger fans now can look at in terms of where we are, have a little patience in terms of where we're going. You can look at the Chicago Blackhawks, what they went through with Quenneville, and the changes they're making, and actually they're playing pretty decent now in the tournament too. And they've got a mix of young veterans, with Tays and Kane and stuff like that. And now Crawford, that guy's coming back. He's playing a little good. So it's weird. If you just look at how, take the COVID experience aside and just watch what's going on the ice right now and see what happens. That's a way for Ranger fans to kind of sit back and kind of can look at what kind of mix do the Rangers have. And, getting this pick and all the draft picks that we have going forward, we've got a couple big guns, signed. We got a little bit of cement we need to smooth over in between the nets and the defense there and the third and fourth lines and stuff, and we'll get going. So we're in a good situation. But keep an eye on some of those, especially Rado and, say, Philly, and watch how those guys are doing, because it's the same thing. They've accumulated a lot of picks. They kind of changed the guard in those places, especially. I love Colorado. I can't stop talking about them enough. But, those are organizations that went through a lot of changes. So the positive side is looking how Colorado's playing, and even Vegas too with the draft and so on and so forth. And then the bad side of it is like Toronto's, and Edmonton, some incredible stars on those teams, and they just can't get through the hump, and they've tried different coaches, they've tried different staffs, they've got tons of money, and they can't get it done. And then you take a team like Pittsburgh and Boston, and look what they've gone through the last 10 years. They've won and they've lost. They've won and they've lost. They found a way to come back, but they've had those core guys, whether it's Crosby and Malkin in there, and obviously some great goaltending and coaches with Sullivan and so on and so forth. But, the Rangers they've got a nice little mix of everything else, and next season it might be sooner than that because, like you pointed out, Gordon's got these extra draft picks. Lafreniere coming in here too. Opens up the possibility, like I said, we're going to need another center, all these different options that they have. So, yeah, JD, break out the popcorn, a little bit of scotch, and lay all that stuff on the table. And, after this tournament and the cup gets awarded and we can start looking forward and the NHL will give us a roadmap in terms of training camp and starts. And they've proved to us that we can put a season together whether the fans come back or not. And I think we'll be back to normal sooner than later as far as I'm concerned. As far as getting back to games and normal life here. That's, my positive vibe. So, I'll throw it back to you, KD, but I think, like I said, the Rangers are now definitely in a situation to just kind of chill, evaluate, don't really have to push all the emergency buttons next season, and give Quinn a little space, give some of the other players a little space, bring in some of the other guys, work out the goaltending situation. And I think this will kind of all work nice. And then the following year, yeah, that's when we start breaking things.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I think that, I mentioned it before. I could see where fans aren't 100% convinced that Quinn is ultimately going to be the coach that
Nobody
leads
should think
this
that.
team. Yeah, he could ultimately end up being sort of like the Buck Showalter of the Yankees, where he sort of was the guy who led them, through it and up until they won the championships, but they had to bring in Torrey to sort of get it done.
He hasn't won a playoff spot yet.
Yeah, so that could be it. I mean, they could, look, he could be the guy who develops this team and gets them on the right path. But if maybe they have a couple of years of disappointments with him, they may need to bring in, not Trotz, but a Trotz-like guy, ready-made, playoff pedigree, Stanley Cup pedigree, and say, look, take this home for us. So that could
bring back Iron Mike.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, it could be something along those lines. I mean, there's a number of guys, you mentioned like a guy like Laviolette or something like that, wherever he is, and you may have to bring a guy like that in 2 to 3 years if you're saying, look, we appreciate what Quinn has done with the rebuild, but we don't think you're the guy to take it, drag us over the finish line. So we're going to have to bring in somebody who can. So, but, I love like you said, I love the mix. You got the young guys, but you still have the veterans on the team, and the Kreiders and the Panarins and Zibanejad. And but you have all the youth this youthful enthusiasm coming in, and it sounds like they all want to be a part of this and love being a part of this and where this team is going. And